Hi everyone, welcome back to Redefine Stories. It's been a while. I could not be more excited for the episode today. Our guest today is incredible, and a lot of our talk today is going to be about the behind the scenes of being like a LinkedIn creator, being a student, and what all goes behind. Because I think all what we see in social media is everything that is in the front and only the good times. So we're gonna have a deep dive into everything back of the house. So the speaker joining us today is Ali Khan, who is joining us from Toronto. He is a student at the U of T. He's currently working at IBM, and he's also a co-founder of BizTech at the U of T. To top that all off, he's also a LinkedIn creator with over 10,000 followers, reaching about 2.4 million people. Besides working with major Fortune 500 companies like Amazon and IBM, he's also a career mentor for many students. And he has attended or spoken at about 20 plus events. So, wow, that was a lot. Such an incredible introduction, incredible profile. And I think it becomes really important to ask Ali, how did all of this kind of come into being? What kind of started your journey in a way?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you for such an incredible introduction. I feel so validated and happy. So thanks for that. I can start with a little bit of an introduction. My name's Ali. I recently graduated from the University of Toronto, and my background, Ritika has almost spoken everything about it. I can say a little bit on the side. So I was born in Delhi, India. I lived there for 17 years, and I came to U of T as an undergraduate and international student. Ever since I was 11 years old, I was passionate about technology, and I've been very privileged to have been gifted a laptop when I was 11 years old. That's where my exploration for design and development started, and I used to build applications like alarm clocks and web browsers for people. So that used to be really, really fun. And that's how I started building on this passion and interest of mine. And right now I'm working at IBM as a technology consultant, and I've worked with as a program manager intern and a few ambassador positions with LinkedIn. In terms of behind the scenes, how it all came together, sometimes I even I wonder how it all worked out, because my journey has not been linear like a lot of people. And just like you said, on social media, we only see a linear path, like someone goes to university and then they get a good job and then they graduate, everything is amazing. But there is a lot that happens on the side. I can shed a little bit of light on the struggles which I faced. So when I came to U of T, definitely I was having a lot of issues with firstly adjusting to the academic curriculum. I studied CBSE. All of the exams which we had were right at the end, 100% board marks. But at U of T, you have to study every week, every day, and I was not used to that. So my GPA in my first year was 2.3. And additionally, in my first year, I did face with some issues surrounding my hearing. So I could not hear my professors in class. That detrimented my confidence a lot. I stopped going for classes, and that also contributed to my academic performance. In my second year, I was removed from my trade business school, which was Rock and Commerce at U of T. At that time, I thought everything is done. I should go back to India. But I had some great mentors and great faculty members at U of T who pushed me to maybe pursue an alternative major. So I have graduated in human resources, and I continued my passion for technology through my side projects and student clubs and internships. But that's a little bit of where I come from.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like it's just that I think what is interesting is despite having gone through those ups and downs in a way, you still kind of emerged so strong out of it. And I think that's what I was kind of my next question was heading towards is what is something that always kind of motivated you, or how do you kind of find the motivation or the inspiration to move out of any rabbit hole that you got stuck into initially, whether it be the academic sense or whatever it was?
I think, first of all, having a support system really helped me. I've been blessed with some very incredible and helpful parents. They were always ready to listen, even though I didn't want to tell them about what's happening at U of T. I didn't want to make them worry, but parents have been a huge, huge source of my inspiration. They have never stopped believing in me, even at times that I was like, I can't do this. So first is parents. Second is having some great friends within university, within high school, anywhere whom you could always connect with. When times were tough, these type of people pushed me to go above my limits. They were listening to what was happening, and that increased my confidence in a way. There are times where one cannot motivate themselves internally. So having that external support system was very helpful. The second thing, which I feel like was which worked out well for me, was on the internal side. I have always had a strong belief of doing well in technology, and the only way I could do that was by doing some work. So I have always been creating things and putting it out there. It was through my LinkedIn, it was through my student clubs, through my high school competitions. There were a lot of times that people did not enjoy the work, but that helped me learn, and it also helped me grow and get more validation from people to know this is something which I'm good at. So it helped me identify my strengths in terms of, hey, this career might be good for me, this might be bad for me. So those two things I would say would be the two cornerstones of coming back on top.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like since you also kind of mentioned about like, the academic part, and I remember I read even one of your posts on LinkedIn that spoke very adamantly about like, how you scored 54% in econ. And like, I love that you even expressed that, because I think a lot of students experience that. Like even I came from an ICSE board, back in India. It's very different to how it runs here. I was fortunate enough to go to an IB school for my 11th and 12th, which is why I was able to adapt a lot easier here to this curriculum. So like, what strategies did you use once that happened? Like, how did you cope with that failure one? And what were some strategies you used to improve?
Definitely. So especially for students from India, we come from a very different academic background. Those who do CBSE, ICSE, we are taught to study right at the end. All of our weightage, our grades are based on one exam. So that's a very different kind of learning. It can go very well, it can go very bad. It all depends on one assessment. So that's the approach I had when I came to university, that, hey, I can study for 2 nights and I'll score great marks. But that's not how the Canadian education system works. So this was the failure which I faced. I wasn't consistent with my courses. I wasn't consistent with reading the required lectures, attending all professors' meetings. A lot of classes don't have participation, so you don't have a lot of motivation and incentive to go. But that was also wrong on my part, that, hey, I should have attended a few classes. So I think the way I got up was through consistency. Instead of doing everything all at once, breaking it down into chunks of work actually helped me score much better. It also reduced my stress in a way that everything wasn't bundled at me all at once. So that was one of the strategies. The second strategy was seeking help from maybe peers who are doing much better than you are. It is intimidating at once because you start comparing that, oh my God, I scored so low. He scored so high. If I ask for help, then he would judge me. But if coming to friends, if you have great friends, no one's going to judge you. And even if they do, you will still get some benefit out of the strategies which they have. So seeking help from your peers, understanding their learning styles, what kind of learning resources they're using, are they using any past papers, any past tests, that was helpful. And thirdly, I would say my third strategy would be to also be in contact with your professors. It can seem a little scary, but professors are like, their job is to help students. So if you email them, they would never be like, hey, I'm not going to help you. It is their job to help students. If you're ever lost, that has been helpful for me when I connected with my professors and I said, hey, I don't understand this topic. So we used to have office hours or tutorials where they used to cover that topic again, and watching maybe videos on the side. YouTube has a lot of tutorials on the courses you're doing. So a lot of ways to come back up if you don't understand what's happening.
No, definitely. And I feel like since you also mentioned about judgments, I'm kind of wondering is like, what's your key to dealing with judgments? Because, just being international students in general, beyond just the academic part, of scoring low, then reaching out to someone, is like, in general, I feel like a lot of international students don't seek help. Whether it be like, many areas like mental health, and that's like whole another ballgame that we can talk about. But it's like, how do you kind of just deal with judgments in general, and like, how do you overcome them? Because I think that's a major barrier for us international students.
I think that's a great question. It took me at least 3-4 years to master this skill, and I'm still kind of in the middle of it. I've been an emotional kid since I was young, so I used to take what everyone said like as it is and
Yeah.
imbibe it in myself. The more I grew up, the more I realized that the importance of boundaries is where you can really flourish.
Yeah.
So if you're seeking feedback from someone, take it with a grain of salt, and always know that what they say is not necessarily true. So try to understand if their feedback resonates with you, if what they're saying actually helps you. If they say something which you feel is judgmental, you can maybe express it to them, or you can take it in a way that, hey, they're just trying to help me out. So this is their point of view rather
Yeah.
than my point of view. So you can take it in that empathetic form as well. So that would be some of the ways. In terms of international students,
Yeah.
I feel like we also need to realize that we come from a very different background. So culturally, sometimes it might seem like an issue, like
Yeah.
seeking from people. Um, so recognizing that first of all, you've come so far. You've come from India, or you come from
Yeah.
any other country to Canada is a huge thing. It takes a little bit of time to adjust. So take your time to be comfortable
Yeah.
and that. And secondly, I would say that comparison, if comparison is being made with, let's say, your peers, make
Yeah.
sure it's more objective. If you're comparing yourself with domestic students, know that they have a head start when it came to even recruiting with companies, when it came to the education system. So if you recognize all of those things, you will be more compassionate to yourself, and you will be more kind. That hey, it's okay that I'm lost. It's a lot going on.
Yeah. No, definitely. I 100% agree. And like, just a very random question. What would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
My biggest accomplishment. That's a great question. I feel like I have a lot of great,
Oh, wow.
but I would say the biggest one would be to land an offer at IBM. When I look back, I
Yeah.
see that it was a very long and tedious process.
Yeah.
I went through 5 rounds of
Yeah.
interviews. It was 3 months,
Wow.
and one of the problems which I faced in almost all of the rounds is that my academic background was completely unrelated to what I was applying for. So my academic background was human resources. So
Yeah.
tailoring that into a consulting position and
Yeah.
also my experiences outside of college, I think that's been a very exhilarating and a great experience for me. It goes on to show that the side projects you do, anything which you do outside of school, is highly, highly valued at companies. So that made me
Yeah.
feel at ease that if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, then
Yeah.
you will be fine. So that's like one of my greatest accomplishments.
No,
But I have like
definitely.
one more.
I know. I feel like I 100% agree to that because I mean, I come from a similar background in the sense like I didn't do human resources, but even I did kin, going into consulting, you
Hmm.
definitely face a lot of judgments even in that sense.
Yeah,
Like, oh, how do you fit in, kind of a thing.
yeah,
And it's like being an international student, you're already struggling with this idea of fitting in, and on top of that, now someone puts that cherry on top of another
yeah.
fitting in. So it's kind of like definitely a lot to kind of take in there. But I think, yeah, you've come a long way there. So yeah, good job on that. And I think
Thank
since
you.
you were talking about international students and our struggles, your LinkedIn, like, that's kind of really catered to that audience. And you have been doing incredible there. Like, how did that creator side of Ali Khan come out? Like, when did that journey with LinkedIn start?
That's a great question. I think first I would say when I joined the LinkedIn Ambassador program, that's where I really learned how LinkedIn is used more of as a storytelling tool than just a
Yeah.
resume tool. So getting that support from employees at LinkedIn and also seeing other content creators that
Yeah.
helped me get started. That hey, this is a platform I could do something in. Second is that I am a very emotionally driven person, and I can sense emotions in others. I used to see a lot of relatable incidents that happen within
Yeah.
students, and a lot of people were not expressing it. So when people used to open professional websites like LinkedIn, they used to only see accomplishments, and I was also that same person at that time.
Yeah.
And hey, if you bagged a new position, you have to promote it. It's amazing for your brand and reputation,
Yeah.
but a lot of people were not bringing out the realness, the what happens behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
that's where I tried to focus. It was a little hard to be fully vulnerable, but that's when my
Yeah.
creative side also came out. Um, relating to people has been helpful for me and a lot of friends of mine as well. Some of the feedback which I get from my content is that you really break down how hard it is to achieve whatever you want, other than apart from other people who are not comfortable sharing that story. So you become that voice of all struggles. So that I feel like is the theme of my LinkedIn profile, and hopefully I will continue to express all of the struggles that even professionals face now in this setting, and like make LinkedIn a little more balanced that way.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think I 100% agree to that. And like, like I think like expressing on struggle and putting oneself as being that vulnerable person who cries sometimes, who also goes through failures. I think it definitely takes a lot out of you. But I think once you do that, you kind of realize that, oh, wow, that becomes an actual ray of hope for so many more people. Because I think people at the end of the day don't just want to look at high achieving people. They want to look
Yeah.
at people who have been in their same boat. You can be a high achiever, but I'm sure you have also gone through failures, and like people just want to see that. So since we are kind of talking about failures, I'm kind of sorry, I'm just wondering is like, how do you deal with failures, whether it be on like, being a creator, part of creators also, some posts are going to do very well, some posts don't, like I'm trying to learn that right now. And it's like, you obviously your emotions also take a flow with that, so how do you kind of deal with, like, I don't want to call it a failure, but those situations, but at the same time failures in other settings, whether it be, I don't know, applying to a job application, or if you have ever been rejected in any way, how do you kind of deal with such sort of things?
I think that's a great question. And I also have to see that you've been doing really, really well on LinkedIn as well. You've been posting consistently. So one of the solutions is something which you're already implementing. Dealing with failures, especially as a content creator,
Yeah.
is not about looking at vanity metrics. Once maybe your post gets viral and then your expectation gets really high, if you get like 1,500 likes, more than 100,000 views, your expectation will be set to that standard.
Yeah.
But we need to realize that LinkedIn has an algorithm which tries to be equitable and fair to
Yeah.
all. So it is almost impossible for creators to have posts which are viral all the time.
Yeah.
So recognizing that the algorithm is not designed in a way which will help you always maximize likes is one thing. Second thing which has helped me as a creator is that I'm pretty bad at this, but I'm trying to be a little more consistent with posting. Because if you don't try posting, you wouldn't know what your audience like. So
Yeah.
the more you post, the more you will understand what type of content is your user liking, what type of content should you post more. So it's like trying and testing things out rather than thinking too much.
Yeah.
The third thing would be to just publish and think less. That's also something which I still struggle with. I try to make my posts perfect. I spend way too much time on it. And then when I post it and if the result is not as favorable, then I get even more harsh on myself.
Yeah.
I think about the trade-off I made. I could have published 3 posts in the same time, and I
Yeah.
would have been able to understand a lot more about, hey, maybe
Yeah.
my audience likes this. I could tailor it this way.
Yeah.
So those would be the 3 things I say
Yeah.
as a creator.
Yeah.
Failures.
No, definitely. And I feel, I don't know if my next question, if it's 2%, you don't have to answer. But I was also kind of wondering is like, I've seen competitive before. You have started posting a bit less on LinkedIn. Would you say that's intentional? Because I know a lot of creators who stop posting after some time or take like a break from it because of sometimes, like no matter how well you're doing, it is toxic platform, or it's your expectations that get in the way of you doing well mentally. Like, did that ever come into your way? And was that like a reason that let you kind of taking a step back sometimes?
I think that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked me this. It is hard to stay consistent. So I intentionally have been taking a break from LinkedIn. It is because I started my new role at IBM. So I wanted a little bit of time to adjust
Yeah.
to a new surrounding, to meeting new people. So based on your priorities, I feel like things might change. I did feel a little bad about leaving my LinkedIn like completely dark and gray for a while. I thought, hey, I'm going to lose my followers. Hey, no one's going to view my content. But then I feel like priorities matter a lot. If you have a
Yeah.
new job and it's something that you really are passionate about, it's
Right.
completely okay to give a rest to another commitment. So that's one of the reasons why. The second reason why I haven't been posting is I am trying to be more on the IPM social media side. So I'm working
Wow.
on getting
Yeah.
to their Life at IPM pages,
Smart.
and then that would be the theme which I'm trying to maybe inculcate in my follow posts. So those would be the two things. But
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
lost.
And I think, trust me, like it's nothing like, oh, I'm going to lose followers or everything. Because I think like people kind of like, especially with the posts that even you make. And I think something that even I really appreciate is you being real about whatever you are going through at the moment. And I think like people just like now they know it through this video, like why you haven't been posting. And I think people are very respectful of it. That is something I think I appreciate about the LinkedIn audience. It's not like Instagram, people
Mm,
don't unfollow you once you just stop posting. They are a lot more like loyal, and because they connect with you at a personal level in a way. So I think don't you should not never worry about that. And I think that's also something that always comes in my head, because I wonder like, okay, once I start a full-time job, I know I won't be able to give as much. So it's kind of like just optimizing every time you get,
mm,
so for, and I think that's why like it's so important that we reflected on this, because it's like everyone's life stage is so different. Like at
yes.
some point you may see someone putting full force into something, and it's not like they're doing very well there, or compared to another person. It's just everyone's at different life stages, so it's so important to be aware of that. And
Mm,
I don't know, once you get back, he's just going to blow off. It's kind of like that. And I think I really like, I think it's like amazing, because like I don't think I would be able to like maintain that mental pace to know, okay, you have to prioritize things. It's
mm.
definitely something that takes practice. And I think that is something I'm trying to learn. So thank you for pointing that out again on how important it is to learn that. So yeah, but like, since we're also kind of talking about like, social media in general, I feel like a lot of people don't realize what goes behind the scenes, as we spoke about before.
Mm,
So I'm kind
mm,
of wondering if you can just take us through what goes through your head, or like Ali Khan's head, when you're ever like making a post, the idea of expectations that you were touching on before. If you could
mm.
just elaborate a bit on that in terms of like, how do you just generally deal with the responses to post? Are you the one who keeps checking LinkedIn every now and then to see how the post is doing? I do that many times. I'm guilty of doing that. Like, what is something that you do, and just to make people realize how it is nerve wracking and anxiety
Mm,
sometimes?
mm. I think you've gone into very nitty-gritty details. I actually like that. I try to adopt a process, but I haven't yet. My LinkedIn posts are purely out of my, let's say, intuition that, hey, I should post this. And then I write it out, and then I edit it 3 times. I show it to my friends. So it's a very messy process in terms of creating to publishing. And after publishing as well, I'm the person who will keep checking his phone. So I need to delete the app sometimes where
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you have like an exam tomorrow. So please
Yeah.
focus on that. So yeah, it's been a little messy in terms of my LinkedIn, but I hope to be more process oriented and more objective in the future,
Yeah.
uh, so that the emotional strain which comes into keeping checking
Yeah.
your and like always editing your posts. Hopefully, it'll get better. In
Yeah.
terms of the reactions, I have learned to lower my expectation. The lower your expectation is, the more surprise you get. So when I initially started and I had like one of my first posts go viral, my expectation was so high, and it always used to like keep coming down, 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 down. The more I post, the more I realize that when you have no expectations, then you'll just be surprised.
Yeah.
So just post with the intention of helping people,
Yeah.
and then if the likes are coming, it's coming. If not, that's fine.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, just lumping to like some lessons that you've learned, like I'm kind of wondering is like, what would you say is the most painful lesson that you have learned, and
Mhm.
you're pleased to have learned that, like in your life in general?
Hmm. I think the most painful lesson I have learned is so I've been a little entitled since I was a kid. It was because some of my teachers, they recognized that I had a good voice. So I thought that, hey, this is going to be the leeway to success. But I was
Yeah.
completely wrong about that. When I came to university, I realized that talent and gifts don't matter if you don't work very hard for it.
Yeah.
Someone might look fantastic and they have the potential to be a model, but if they don't work towards it, then they won't get it.
Yeah.
So this was like a very hard-hitting realization. It took me a very long time to be okay with it, because I always thought that, hey, I'm going to be gifted with all of the things in life, but that's not true. You have to work as much as any other person. So Yeah, I think it's been a great realization. It
Yeah.
helps me be more humble as well with
Yeah.
people.
No, definitely. And since we're kind of moving towards the end, I think we're going to move to the rapid round. I always look forward to this round because it just
Okay.
moves very quick. I have a series of 4 questions, and you just have to answer each under like a minute.
Hmm.
Cool. Perfect.
Cool.
So the first question is, what does validation mean to you?
Validation to me means that someone else has benefited from my work.
Okay, amazing. What would you say is your biggest insecurity today?
My biggest insecurity would be to not meet my personal goals,
Okay.
which
And
would be
how,
maybe getting,
sorry?
which could be getting into a relationship.
Okay. And just wondering, like, how do you combat it? Like, how do you overcome it?
I combat it by focusing more on myself
Okay.
and just believing that it's going to happen. I don't know if that's the right
I mean, there's no right or wrong here.
approach.
And then the third one is, what would you say are your top three? What would you say are top three skills that you think any student should have? Whether,
Mm,
like, yeah, in
I
general.
think first is public speaking. Knowing how to communicate with your audience is
Yeah.
essential in any job. Second would again be on, I would say, empathy, understanding how other people feel before reacting, before saying anything else. Third thing would be to have a continuous mindset of learning. Always know that there is someone better than you. Always know that there is something to learn. So you stay humble and you keep consuming
Yeah.
those.
Perfect. And last question, I got this from one of my favorite podcasters, actually, Harry Stebbings. I don't know if you know who he is, but
Mhm.
he basically asked this question, and I want to ask you that as well. He said, if you were to do this interview in 5 years' time, where would Ali Khan be?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So hopefully in the next 5 years, Ali Khan would be running his own tech company within the social impact space. He wants to impact the underprivileged within the ed tech sector. So hopefully he's making a huge impact there, helping underprivileged get more fortunate and the resources to do so.
Perfect. Amazing. That concludes. Thank you so much for taking our time, taking out your time, Ali. I think this was amazing. I learned a lot, and I'm sure others did as well. So I'm just so excited to share this. And thank you for taking our time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you, Ritika.